Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday night as we hang out with our fellow nerds. We have a special guest tonight. Hope y'all can hang out with us, put some nice questions in, and let me welcome my guest and my co host. Hey guys, what's going on? We got Chaotic and Multicade Matt. Joel unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight. And our special guest, Mr. Encoder's in the house. What's up, brother?
Oh, nothing much, man.
We are so glad that you're here. I know there's tons of other shows that you could have gone on or been watching or whatnot. So thank you for taking the time to come hang out with us.
Oh, no problem. You guys are cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate you.
We're just dorks.
Yeah, just a bunch of dorks. These guys are a lot more technical than I am, so they're probably going to be the ones that are going to be blowing you up with questions tonight. But I'm here to have fun. So, Matt, it's so good to see you, brother. It has been a week, right?
Yeah, it's been over a week. Yeah, the whole motion since we migrated from Tuesdays to Thursdays, it kind of threw my schedule off. So I had to do the every other Wednesday with the other group.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here tonight, buddy. I wasn't going to miss a chance to hang out with you. So glad you were here, my friend. Got a few people in the chat tonight. Andy's Game Room is here. Vader86, Dave D is in the house saying Spirits is here. And we're on, buddy. I know you missed us from yesterday. So Carl O is still here as well. So glad y'all are here. Let everybody know we've shared it in a lot of social media and whatnot. So hope everybody will come and watch us. I know there's some other streams going on, but just kind of a lax show. We just want to hang out and chill. So, guys, what do y'all want to talk about? What's on your mind? I know, Matt, I could see your wheels turning. So,
yeah, Matt's going to be asking most of the questions tonight. I mean, this is kind of just a impromptu thing to do tonight.
Yep.
So, no agenda really on the board tonight, but it's just we're here to hang out and we'll figure stuff to talk about.
No doubt.
Matt,
no doubt.
You're gonna start it off, Matt. Go ahead.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah, just to state the obvious, I don't. So, Mr. Encoder, do you remember the Ad Games Legends, when it first came out, the Sam's Club, and every given week there was a different update. And so one week you would have Super Nintendo with Nintendo and Genesis. Were you part of that given wave?
Oh, I don't know anything about Ad Games.
Okay, fair enough. And so this is it's very similar to what's happening now, but thanks to your board, every given day, somebody posts something that just blows your mind. And so I guess we can start with, was it B posted his video last week, and based on the whole ROM set for MAME was it 2021, and so has all Ligon games for that given ROM and MAME set been tested? So there's was it Area 51, Lethal Enforcers? There's a handful of them that are just iconic.
No, because they require. So you can test them. You can let them run, and they'll open and run, but you won't have input. And so there hasn't been a lot of work from me personally in attempting to run them at all because I have to do that extra legwork to try to get the Ligon working.
So was it based on your legwork is why Revolution X was working as well as it done?
Yeah.
Because each game really has to have its own configuration, right, within MAME, right?
Kind of. They did some weird stuff with that built-in MAME where it can't save settings. It can't do for instance, a lot of people saw that what was it? Robotron wasn't working. I think it was. It wouldn't get past the boot screen.
Yes, sir.
And so what was happening is the reason why it works on a normal PC, people go in normal MAME on this other system, I just have to run it twice and then it works. That's because it's saving data. They have battery storage on those old boards.
Yeah, like a CMOS battery, yes.
So there's a thing called NVRAM, and that captures these settings, and that's what that battery storage is usually keeping. And so what they'd done on the arcade was disabled NVRAM from being able to being written to, and that's why the Robotron stuff wasn't working. So there's little stuff like that that's in all of these. So it's not just MAME configs. It could be that. It could be a load state. It could be a number of things because of the way they configured it.
Okay.
So it's really just like a case by case basis, trying to figure out like you run it and then it doesn't work, and then you try to go blindly and figure out what the hell's wrong.
Got it.
In the
Is there a
case of the
given
light
game
gun,
that- Go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to ask, was there a given game that's at the top of your list to tinker with?
no, I don't. This stuff isn't as nostalgic to me as it is to a lot of you guys. I'm younger. I didn't
Yes,
grow
sir.
up with arcades. So I didn't really have anything super in mind. Like Area 51 was something that I was chasing because when we were doing T2, we couldn't get, or not Area 51, I'm sorry, RevX, because we couldn't get it running with good performance on the Terminator 2 cabinet yet. But it was just one of those things where it was like we already screwed with it, so I already kind of knew how it worked in terms of the game itself.
Got it.
Let's see. Actually, I think it was Toxin shared it 2 days ago. Like Shredder's Revenge was actually working.
Yeah.
And you said, and so is Shredder's Revenge also is online as well?
So from what I've been told, yeah.
Yes.
I haven't personally tested it, but from what I've been told, yes, it works
Okay.
online.
That's
And the
fantastic.
person who said it is reputable.
Reptile, yes, sir. Now, is there a way, based on that given, like I think when they posted that given video, is there a way to change the aspect ratio of the game, or is that being too greedy? So, like where it fills the whole screen?
I don't know.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I can't say something's not possible because theoretically anything's kind of possible. It's like
Yes,
it's sort of like the argument that I got in with Retro Lizard around like he claimed that you couldn't run, XYZ game on Arcade 1-Up hardware. It's not necessarily true. It's really how much work somebody wants to put into it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And so, based on like, you can have fast, good, but you can't have both, right? Sometimes, right? So you can turn one given knob, but something has to degrade if something goes up, right?
Well, like a
So,
good
like
example
frame
is
rates
that nobody can run a Killer Instinct in MAME on the Raspberry Pi 3, but the Arcade 1-Up hardware for that is equivalent to a Raspberry Pi 3.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. Yeah, with no fans or anything, it's just.
Yeah, there's no fan in the Killer Instinct, but that's I don't know. That has to do with the way that Code Mystics ran it. There's different ways to do emulation, and one of them is called dynamic recompilation. And the idea of that is, how people port stuff, and it means that basically the code has been made to run on this system specifically.
Right.
When you
Mhm.
port something.
Mhm.
So the idea of dynamic recompilation is almost like porting it in real time.
Now, is that similar to, similar like when you load, let's say, like the Dolphin emulator where it loads like compilers before you start the game? Is that similar to that, or is it different?
You might be referring to shader caching.
Yes, sir.
So shader caching isn't the same thing. That's
Okay.
that's there is recompilation there that has to occur. So what happens is like our computers, these boards, whatever, they have different graphics cards in them, and the way that you talk to them is different. So the language has to be translated. And so normal emulation will translate as the game runs. When you do that caching, they're trying to take everything that would need to be translated as it runs, and instead of translating over and over and over again, they translate it once and then rely on the translation they already did.
Yes, sir.
And so that's the two different implementations. The problem with MAME, though, and a lot of arcade games like Killer Instinct, for instance, is that there's so many different boards out there for arcade machines. It's not like a game console. Right. When they do it for a PlayStation or a whatever, it's one language. It's not 700.
Right. So take a game like Killer Instinct. From what I read, a lot of people had trouble running, emulating that because of CHD files, right? The hard drive files that it had to read. Is that basically kind of, instead of it having to read it, or it read it on the fly instead of having to try to find those files or something like that, right? Does that make sense?
There's a lot of variables. The hard drive thing might be one of them. So, for instance, I know for a fact that the Killer Instinct doesn't emulate the sound chip that was in the original arcade.
Mhm.
It actually, they took the samples, turned them into WAV files, and they play the WAV files directly instead of emulating the sound chip at all. But that's an optimization because now that's one less thing that you have to emulate. So,
Right.
like when it comes to an arcade machine
Yes.
or even some of those old consoles, you're not just emulating the game. People forget that you're emulating an entire console, which means a graphics card, a processor, a sound chip. If they were doing, what was it for Super Nintendo? You had the FX chip.
Right.
So then that's a whole other chip they have to emulate. So it's not just one thing; it's many. And when it came to arcade machines, that was always the case. Some of those arcade machines had 2 processors in them, or 3, or
Correct.
and
Yeah.
so that just adds to this complexity even more. So the less stuff they have to emulate, the more that they can just implement like that, where they're just reading WAV files instead of, the hard drive thing is they have to go and emulate however that hard drive worked too. It's not just like here's a hard drive. It's here's a hard drive. Here's how the game tried to access that hard drive. We have to re-implement this entire layer here that this game's looking for now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they probably removed
Alright,
that layer. They probably extracted the files raw, and then instead of emulating a sound chip, just played the sound samples directly.
Yes, sir.
Whereas
Alright.
if you're aiming for stuff like MAME is, MAME just wants to run the ROM that exists. They don't want to modify anything.
Got it. So
All right. Go ahead, buddy.
what I was just gonna say, like, so when it comes to like Android side stuff that's been released on Android previously, it's easier to maybe even port that or have it run on the IR Arcade if it has some kind of controller support, right, and not just touchscreen.
So interestingly enough, their control configurations had support for touch. So Beach Buggy itself actually uses either gyro or touch. I can't remember which one.
Mm-hmm.
So they can emulate touch with button press.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily a requirement, but it does make it easier if it has controller support.
Right. In the case of, say, like a game like Hunt Down, it makes it a lot easier if I'm able to extract that ABK and try to put it onto the IR Arcade, and it's got controller support. It can probably read that controller and map those controls automatically, maybe, right? Or it's a possibility.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
You got a maybe.
Yeah.
Won't
Yeah,
know
it's
until you
just-
try. I get it.
Yeah.
It's a tinkering thing.
In theory,
It's
right,
trial and
yeah.
error.
Yeah,
Go
definitely.
So, are there certain APKs that have been like successful, like from like certain developers, like one lends to be more friendly than the others?
I'm sorry I missed that. My wife walked into my office.
Oh, no worries. So, are there certain like developers that create APKs that lend itself to be more friendly to tinker with versus the others?
To tinker with in what way? Like to tinker with in getting running on the arcade, or
Yes, sir.
just gamepad support, really? Like, if so, one exception to the gamepad support thing is if it's X input. Like if they tried to target Xbox controllers specifically, it's not going to work as well. Which is ironic because usually it's the other way around. You want X input when you're doing this kind of stuff, but
Mhm.
For that, it's actually looking for an Xbox controller, and the iArcade doesn't emulate an Xbox controller with the way that their input stuff works.
It's so backwards.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let's see. I guess limitations. Like, what if the sky's the limit? Like, I know?
I'm not
in
John. I
theory,
won't say anything's possible.
No, exactly. Yeah.
I'm just-
I had to try, right? So, like in theory, PS1 or Dreamcast should be relatively easily accomplished, right? Can
Yeah,
you go a step
absolutely.
above that? Like, could PS2 be done?
I'm not extremely familiar with the chip, but according to Jeff, who is,
Uh-huh.
he said that it's possible. But I think it's really going to depend on the game. Like
The game,
maybe if you're
yes,
running
yeah.
some 2D PS2 game, maybe it works.
Like,
Yeah.
Crash would work, but not necessarily like Midnight Club 3 or something like that. Something that's more
I
graphic
don't know why you'd want to
intensive.
play Midnight Club 3 on a.
No, but just off the top of my head.
Like, I was like, oh man, I could run Crazy Taxi on this. And I'm like, wait a second, I don't want to run Crazy Taxi on this.
Yeah, this-
I don't
No.
know. Even Beach Buggy was like, what the hell? Why is this here?
Correct. You which would lend itself to a wheel. Like you'd figure they would have sold a wheel or something, but nope. Because it plays well. Like it, it runs well. I wouldn't say it plays well.
Yeah, I don't know why they created a Beach Buggy skin iArcade
Handled basics.
With no wheel.
with no wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. They should have made a wheel attachment or something.
Yeah.
Anything.
All right. Who's it? We can ask that.
I don't know if MG is joking or not because he is
No.
our house comedian on that. So you
He's
tell me.
no, that's his wheelhouse.
So the
So
question doesn't really make sense, but
MG, if you want to, give us a little bit more here, buddy.
well, like Basic is a language. C++ is a language. Basic, like,
Yeah.
obviously, Basic would have to be compiled natively for Android or blah blah blah. Basically, language it's not language specific. Like even Java-based APKs can run C++ libraries inside of them.
Okay. Interesting.
Another thing,
Right.
like that, in reference to something Retro Lizard said about that he doesn't expect this kind of hardware to be able to run PS2 era titles. When we were talking about Time Crisis 2, for instance, Grand Theft Auto, what was it? San Andreas and Liberty City were both PlayStation 2 games.
Mhm.
Those have both been ported to Android, and both were also running on, like, I think it was a PlayStation Vita, which has worse hardware than this does. GPU might be a little better on the PlayStation Vita, but
Yeah.
correct.
still, I mean, that thing had what 128 megs of RAM and a slower processor than this.
Correct.
So that's something that excites me too. Is if you look at PS Vita, or I wouldn't say PSP because it's MIPS based, but PS Vita specifically. Let's say somebody were to make an emulator for that made use of the ARM instructions. If you guys are familiar with like the different architectures, ARM, x86, and so on.
Yes, sir.
The PlayStation Vita was ARM based, which means that now you're not so much dealing with emulation so much as you are translation.
Mhm.
Like if you guys are familiar with Wine, or if you have Steam Decks and you're familiar with Proton.
Yes, I know Proton.
So Proton takes a Windows executable and gets it running on Linux, right? And the reason that works is because they're the same architecture. They're both x86, Intel, whatever. Whereas the PlayStation Vita and this would be the same architecture. So therefore, you're technically running those games natively.
Sweet.
Yeah.
As long as you have that Proton type layer there to translate.
It's like
So
homework.
What that
research.
means is for these kinds of systems and Raspberry Pis, if someone was ever to put the work in, you could probably run pretty much the entire PlayStation Vita library on any one of these chips.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's just all about somebody putting in that work to write that code, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But that opens the door to a crap ton of titles. I mean, the PlayStation Vita had some really cool titles on it. I think one of the 3DS were ARM-based, MG asked. And he also said something about Kotlin, C++, Ect, but it doesn't matter what an APK is written in. It'll run.
Okay.
Okay.
The main requirements for Android applications is that they target well, they don't have to target ARM64, but this is an ARM64 system, the way it was built. And those are probably what would perform best.
Less legwork.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is I have concerns with overheating, but that's just because of rumors that Jong and somebody else said. I haven't confirmed that myself. So it's hard to say. Like, I don't know. It's hearing it from them or him saying that something can seriously mess up your system when he talked about those unreleased games previously.
Yes,
It's
sir.
almost like a scare tactic. So how do you know to believe it or not? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the deck itself is poorly ventilated, right? Like a fan would help a lot.
Yeah, but from what Jeff said, so Jeff is a hardware engineering guy. For those who don't know, when I say Jeff, I'm referring to A Custom Arcade,
Okay.
the guy who designed this USB board.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
he's a hardware engineer through and through. Like he builds hardware like these PCBs and stuff like that.
Right.
And there is another guy that's actually an electrical engineer. That's I wouldn't say he's part of Team Encoder, but he's helping out with investigating the gold board currently. And both of them have sort of said that this chip, the RK3399, was designed to be run without a heatsink at all. So ventilation shouldn't really be a concern with that in mind. The question is if they did something out of the normal spec or parameter, like overclocking or something,
Right.
which Arcade 1-Up does. So on a lot of Arcade 1-Up's chips, Pinball, for instance, that's overclocked. If you want to know why it overheats.
There you go.
That's the reason why a lot of them they had a lot of fans of these, right?
Yeah. Well, so what's funny is the Killer Instinct is underclocked. It's not overclocked.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even run that chip at full speed, which is why it's passive cooling instead of active.
Mm-hmm.
But MVC2 and Blitz and Terminator 2, they require that fan.
I don't know if MBC2 has a fan in it.
I don't have one, so I don't know. I know Blitz
Yeah.
has one.
That's a different chip too.
Oh, okay.
But it really depends on implementation, right? Like, how did this person use this chip, and how is the board itself designed? Because just because the chip itself is made to tolerate heat, are the components around it made to tolerate heat?
True.
Or the Xbox 360 is a great example of this too. I don't know if you guys ever knew about why the Red Ring of Death happened necessarily.
I don't. I know it happened to me twice.
So technical details is the solder they used had such a low heat temperature before it would sort of melt that
Mhm.
when the board heated up, the components on the board actually started to lift from the board because the solder was getting hot enough to sort of come disconnected.
Right. Like
And that's why if you shoved it in an oven or something, you could get it working again because you were heating the balls of solder up underneath the chip.
That's wonky.
But so that being said, let's say there was an engineering issue where they used a similar thing. They used cheaper solder. They used the wrong solder, or they had a cold joint, or maybe there's other components around it like the RAM or the storage or something else that you're getting hot as a result of the chip getting hot. So theoretically, even though that chip is safe, that doesn't mean everything else on the board is to bear heat.
Yes, sir. Now, just like stating, like, I don't want to be mean. Like, is there like things that they blatantly did wrong with the board or the chipset? I know you called it what it like diversion by like they were like security by diversion, or I think you referred to
Security through
something.
obscurity.
Yeah, that's what it was. Like where they labeled something that wasn't.
Well,
and, like,
no, I was just mad because they told everybody there wasn't USB ports and they'd have to make a whole new cabinet, or that it would cost a whole new cabinet, when the reality was, well, first, okay, so I was mad because of that, and I was mad because they went on live streams and stuff and said, this is super secure. There's no way anybody's breaking it.
Yes, sir.
And we'd already been screwing with it for the better part of a year. So for context, I do in a previous life, I did product cybersecurity as a threat actor. So I simulated threats against products, but the products that I was simulating threat against flew in the air at 700 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So this is nothing compared to that.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
But that being said, there was absolutely zero security whatsoever. And the reason why you say through obscurity is because they tried to hide something rather than actually secure it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I love that term.
But the other thing that I've said often, when I was a teenager growing up, I was really into hacking stuff. And I often told people security is an illusion created by corporations and government to make people feel safe. And the reason I say that is you have a front door and you put a lock on it and you feel safe because there's a lock there, but somebody can still throw a brick through the window right next to it, and computers work the exact same damn way.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
It's just what about what's the most noisy, right?
Correct. Yes, sir. Yeah. Based on what I do for a living, like my only job is to make sure I'm, my given corporation is not on the news and at 5 o'clock. So yeah. So yes. So I understand what you do.
But yeah, no. So I was upset because they kept saying they secured stuff, and they were actually doing a lot of things wrong. It's very obvious they never had anybody vetted in security to look at their stuff, and then they were probably in violation of California's Privacy Protection Act with some of the things that they did or how they handled things.
Right.
So they could have been sued, to be honest, but because they sent your password in clear text across the wire over HTTP. There was no encryption whatsoever when your password was sent to their servers.
Wow.
Use port 80 instead of 443. Yeah. That's
No,
fine.
everything. 90% of it communicated over port 80,
That's wonky.
including your app installs. So when you told their server to install an app, you got the request back over HTTP to tell it to do it. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with BGP or the idea of BGP hijacking or the history of that at all.
No, not me.
Yeah, probably. Maybe Matt. I don't know.
You said BGP as in Border Gateway Protocol?
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
And like hijacking and how simple that is to pull off.
Yes, sir. Because it's glorified RIP, right? So therefore, yeah. It's
Yeah.
just based on hops.
So to explain, you can steal IP addresses on the internet if you're able to advertise that you own one to the rest of the internet. The internet's based on a giant trust system.
Yeah.
Where if a data center tells the rest of the internet, this is my IP address, a bunch of computers are going to start believing that and start saying this is their IP address.
Yeah.
And so there's this concept of BGP hijacking. And the IP address that they were using for the boards to communicate was a static IP address. They weren't using like a URL or anything.
Yes, sir.
And the communication to tell your board to install something was unencrypted. So if somebody wanted to try to attack their entire user base at once, they could have stolen that IP address, sent a request to every single cabinet to install an application, and backdoored every single arcade that was connected at the time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
But they
'cause
had
you can-
security.
Yeah, that's insane. Because you can look up like you go to Aaron, right, and you know they'll say who owns 4.4.4, which like level 3 Lumen owns it, right?
Yeah, and you just advertise that it's your ASN instead.
Exactly. Yes, sir. That is cool. Well, I mean, it's not cool, but yeah.
Not cool.
Well, no, like I knew guys that hijacked. Like, are you guys familiar with 1337 and how that's like leet speak for elite?
Yes.
So there were
Okay.
guys that I knew that hijacked 1.3.3.7 from China and put their own website on it.
Was there any repercussions based on that?
No, none of those guys ever got arrested, but
Yeah.
doesn't mean they never got a visit.
Oh, I bet.
But it's also China, so who cares? But so where I'm going with all of this, though, without getting too technical again, is just
Yes,
that
sir.
they constantly told people this is secure, this is this is that, and it just seems like it's almost like a lot of blatant lies, and that's messed up, man.
Yeah.
And I refuse to disclose any of this before they went under, just because I didn't want to harm their reputation and stuff of ethics and morals. Where it's like, you know what, people are enjoying the product. Who am I to try to stop that by creating a huge issue out of all of it? Why? What's the point? You know?
Right.
But then, what about the version of like black hat versus white hat? Wouldn't you be in the role of white hat versus telling somebody broken?
Huh?
You know, like
by
black-
telling
like-
them, by disclosing it?
Yes.
No, because I don't think they would have taken it well.
Oh,
I think they would have gotten mad that somebody was poking at their stuff.
yeah.
I mean, you saw the response that Zhang had when I did anything at all. When somebody's response is that when somebody says they have an exploit or a hack in it, rather than reaching out, the response is to go and claim that it's secure and that they don't think anybody could ever do anything, and to like double down on that. That's not somebody reasonable that you want to deal with.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Cool. All right, so we can back off. Like I could talk that stuff all day long. So my wife and I are both dorks. So she's a server Azure person. I'm just a network guy. So yeah.
I'm guilty of ranting for long periods of time to the point where I notice BCong tune out while I do it.
Hey, man, you got us through 32 minutes of the show so far.
Has it already been 32 minutes?
Yeah,
Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
it's been a great
All right, I'll
32
shut up
minutes, man.
No, I'm it's fantastic. Thank you.
I try to translate. Like I try to make things as like understandable as possible for people that aren't necessarily as technical when I speak.
Yeah.
Like it's something that I've tried to do a lot because I do deal with a lot of management and other people that maybe don't understand what I'm talking about, and try to get them to understand like what these
Yeah,
risks are and why.
Very fair.
Um,
Very fair indeed.
But yeah, no. So yeah, that's it's just like misleading to consumers though when they start stuff like that. And it's something I was telling somebody else was that I was originally a Kickstarter backer the day this thing got announced.
Uh-huh.
And I canceled it a month later because John released his first video saying they were going to get AAA titles running.
Yeah.
It was around the same time that it was disclosed that it was going to be Android, and then something about AAA titles, and I was like, nope, I'm done, I'm out, bye. This isn't no way.
Wow.
So, but the positive thing is like B said it like on his last video, like it was so tastefully stated where he said like this could be the best main cabinet ever built. Like now that the chains are gone, like I can't wait for like where everything is headed.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's disappointing that a lot of people are expecting there to be some giant pack they can load right now, but
Oh yes, sir.
This is brand new.
That
Yeah.
Carlo's constantly just shitting on my work. Yep.
Carl's one of the nicest guys on the planet. He's awesome. So yes.
I mean, it's not going to be done overnight. I mean, this
No.
as take as long
No, I'm
as
just
you want,
giving
man. We're here for the ride, bud.
I'm just giving Carl shit because he keeps commenting about how he's just waiting for Glenn's SBC. I have concerns about that too, but that's not related to the way that it works or anything else. It's just that this user base isn't so familiar with emulation or ROMs. Like we've had people join our Discord who have no idea that ROMs aren't even legal or whatever the hell, and they're just like, I
Correct.
didn't know that. And so you get somebody that has that SBC and they load 20,000 games and they don't know what to do with themselves and they're bored of it already.
Yeah.
Which is true. Like on the ALU, like on CoinOps X, like people have like 10,000 games. Like how many more do you need, right? And so, like that's what the iArcade with I lent myself to it based on that it was a more powerful chipset than the At Games Legends, and so. Like I'm just curious of where the higher end stuff can be emulated or duplicated.
Yeah, it's so iffy though, and that's where I was going with emulation. Is that like it's cool because something unique about this that a lot of people don't know yet is that 0.221 MAME isn't something that exists on other ARM chipsets right now. You won't find that on a Raspberry Pi. You won't find that on another Android box or something like that. So that alone has increased compatibility with MAME titles.
Yes,
Mhm.
sir.
Like it's a more modern version of MAME running than a lot of other things. I mean, you look at what is it, RetroArch, and you get what MAME 2003 Plus or something.
Yeah.
So 2003 versus 2020 build, I think, is the 221.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So when I say more modern, like we're talking, it's modern, man. The 2003 MAME build is actually it has backported patches, but it's not as modern.
See, yeah, I'm used to 2003 plus. That's usually the emulator I go for when it comes to main games on my
And-
other emulation machines.
And there are debates on whether or not having an older version of MAME is a good thing or a bad thing. Like some people speculate that newer versions of MAME reduces compatibility or
Mhm.
increases requirements for hardware.
Right.
Is it like classified as overhead, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. It's weird.
I mean, I always figured it just would be more optimized, basically.
Yeah, maybe. But where I was going with it is more so it's new ground that hasn't been touched yet. I feel like because it is a different build that's out there than what we've seen on other systems. So it's almost like we can't compare. We can't go and look at CoinOps X on an ALU and be like, yeah, that runs this, so this will run this.
Right.
Correct.
Because it's unique. It's strange. It's kind of cool. They left something nice behind.
Now, this is like a pipe dream-ish, right? What about like I know like Pinball FX3 wouldn't run, but what about the old Pinball FX2? Like something
What, like Zen Pinball, like what we run on
A1,
yeah,
like the APK?
yes, sir.
Yeah, that'll run fine.
because I mean you would have to like program just like you do on an ALE, like your plunger would be like pull down and your flippers would be like this button and this button. It would just be more aesthetically appealing.
Yeah, I think it would work, but I have no interest personally in running pinball games on an arcade.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could install one of those plunger kits on the front and plug in the USB port and make an actual plunger.
Maybe it would work.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
Do the strangest pinball machine you've ever seen with an actual plunger on it. That'd be interesting.
Hey, don't
I don't-
judge.
It's true. I mean, but technically, I mean, ad games they put buttons on the side of their ALUs now. Mine's the first gen, so it doesn't have them. But yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know, man.
let's see.
MG's asking you a question. Yeah.
Guns, cars, girls, wife, family.
Girls and wife. Okay.
It depends. If the wife's mad at me, then it's okay because there's no way down from there.
Okay, he lives like I do.
Yeah, I don't know. I've more recently gotten into firearms because I moved from California to Arizona, and it's a lot
Yes,
easier to
sir.
obtain them here.
Sweet.
My buddy was actually surprised because I completed a background check in less than 30 seconds and walked out with my first firearm. So
Wow.
it was a few months ago, but
Get Fastlane.
a little bit of that has to do with work. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, clearance. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But no, yeah, those are, I don't know. My hobbies differ all the time. Sometimes it's just doing this stuff. Sometimes I get burned out on this crap and it just becomes doing other crap. The funniest part is I don't play video games at all. I don't make time for that. I get bored of them. I think a lot of video games today, I think the reason why arcades resonate with me is because I don't like more modern stuff. It's too repetitive. It's the same crap released over and over again. There's no, especially with people reusing the same engines all the time and not like actually trying to adjust the physics in their own way. Like, don't get me wrong. If you use Unreal Engine, it doesn't necessarily feel like Unreal Engine. But the problem is like, if you don't change the physics, you know it's Unreal Engine. So if every game is built on the same engine, does it really have its own unique feel to it? Or am I just playing more of the same crap over and over again?
I mean, it's basically, Call of Duty every year, sports titles every year with updated rosters. I mean, it's the exact same thing every year.
Video gaming in today's age has gotten a little bleak to me personally.
And same with like movies and stuff too. Like, it's not as entertaining as it
Okay,
used to be.
Super Mario was cool. That was a little unique.
Yeah, that was unique.
It was good.
Damn
was
it,
different.
MG.
That's the thing. It was different. It wasn't just that it appealed to my childhood. It was actually different. It was something out of the normal crap. It's not another Disney thing where they're trying to replace a character with no reason for doing it.
Oh, it was well written. Yeah.
All right. So what about cars?
Or
You
the
hinted at cars.
200th reboot of Spider-Man.
Correct. So what's your favorite car? You like what style of cars do you like?
JDM stuff. A Skyline.
Ah,
And do you have a
R32.
Sky? Is it right-hand drive or left-hand drive?
Wait, what? Right hand.
Right-hand. Yeah, there's a right-hand drive in our hood, so it's bad. Sorry. Sorry. Skylines are hard to come by now.
Don't you guys normally have another guy in here, by the way?
Yeah.
yeah.
Joel's
Joel.
normally with us. Yeah. And he's really like, if you've watched any of his stuff, he's really technical. He'd probably be doing the same thing that Matt is doing, really just throwing it at you.
How about I ask you guys a question? I see
Sure.
a few of you have different arcade one-ups. Which arcade one-up would you most like to see soft modded so you wouldn't have to gut it?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Oh,
At least
that's
for me.
funny.
At least for me.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would like, that T2 would be cool to soft mod because it's the only light gun system
No,
I've
that's not
got.
allowed. You can't say T2. That's
Can't
not
say
what
I'm gonna say I would like to have Miss Pac-Man and Pac-Man on the
Wait,
same
no, that's
cat.
not allowed either. You can't say.
Okay, never mind.
I was being
Yeah.
serious about T2, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to say that again when they say anything else now.
The II arcade. I don't know.
I'm surprised that you say Miss Pac-Man, though. That's a little strange.
Yeah, I mean, because we know that One Up will never put Miss Pac-Man and Pac-Man on the same cab.
Oh, okay.
They,
I guess.
and so, and
guess that
therefore, it
makes
would be nice to have both of them on the same cab.
Yeah.
I
Or
mean,
at
I
least
think-
have the arcade ROM that has the secret Pac-Man game in it.
Yeah.
You know,
Wait, what? There's a secret Pac-Man game?
like on Mrs. Pac-Man, the actual arcade, you put in an input code and you'll unlock regular Pac-Man.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder if they just disabled that.
they and the arcade 1-Up ROM, I'm sure. Yeah, because you can repeat
Well,
that
they
code
wouldn't
all you want
disable
to.
it in the ROM itself. They still run the original ROM, but they make the emulator block that stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
Some of these guys, man, with how much they understand about emulation, it's very interesting. Like if you look at pinball emulation, do you guys know how like virtual pinball gets emulated really?
I have no idea.
No.
So when there's table recreations where the firmware is available, they're actually emulating the original firmware. So that's running in an emulator the same way that all this other stuff does, which is why you have VPin MAME. But then what they do is when the ball collides with something, the score, the lights, all of that stuff is being controlled by the original firmware.
Right. So like the circuit board that's under a real pinball table, or the computer that's underneath the real pinball table, it emulates all that motions and all that stuff that happens.
Yeah,
right?
everything. Like as far as the firmware understands, it's operating on a real physical table. So you're essentially running the exact same software that ran the real pinball table on your virtual table, and it's controlling all of the lights, all of the solenoids, all of that, whatever thing was there physically, it's controlling that in the virtual world now.
Wow.
But for them to understand it enough to do that is like an amazing concept.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't. That'd be way above my head.
So I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like some of these guys that write some of the simulation software, it's pretty cool because they understand it to a point that we would have never even expected, right? To us, it's just booting a game and running.
Yeah.
But they're looking at like, okay, where does the code accept quarters, or where does it accept input and do this and that and and then they're making these crazy like modifications and improvements to these ROMs through the emulation itself. They're not changing the ROM.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's the
Other
blessing of the umbrella of the arcade community, right? There's some people that are just so gifted at their craft. I mean, you're one of them, right? But like,
No, I'm not.
we're
no.
blessed to be a part of the umbrella of just arcade dorks, right?
Dude, I'm just somebody that hyper obsesses over really dumb shit like a Pac-Man Jr. There's a Pac-Man Jr. that's been sitting in my office for the last month or two. Around the time the arcade bankruptcy got announced, I actually had Bato Sarah running on it and was like getting ready to like finish that up and release it. And then Arcade goes, "We're going bankrupt." And I go, "God damn it, I gotta drop the Pac-Man Jr."
And see, Matt, you were going to buy a Pac-Man Jr., weren't you?
Yes. Yep. There was one locally for $20. I had no use for it. And so I was like, gosh, it's $20. And it even came with a little like crappy little stool thing. But then like all the little ones that come to my house are like kindergarten to first grade. I think it would be too little for them. So
I don't know. Once it's modded, they have fun on it.
all right.
Like
I'll see if I
No matter how small it is, they'll still have fun.
Dude,
with
it's
it.
weird. So my 5-year-old was the one that I originally bought the Paw Patrol for. And he definitely outgrew it. He plays Fortnite and stuff on his computer now. And people trip out because so it's funny, my wife was talking about this because apparently she posted a video of our 3-year-old playing Fortnite and like Roblox on his computer with a mouse and a keyboard. And people are like, he's not 3. It's like, no, he's 3. He plays with a mouse and a keyboard. But so that being said, my 5-year-old obviously outgrew this because it's like he has a computer, he's got a 3050 in there, he's set. He doesn't give a shit about a Paw Patrol machine. But if it's set up and there's some stuff running on it, he'll probably sit down and go in front of it and play on it. I mean, I sit there and play on it, dude. It's funny. It's like it's fun to play Mario and crap on. It's a little tiny screen. You just sit in front of it. It's your own little personal arcade. I don't know.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Especially
But it
when
really
you can
depends
do
on
the
the
things
title.
you do with it.
The Paw Patrol games are definitely boring as shit. So
Yeah, I mean, they probably created them so they wouldn't die, right? So they just
well,
it goes on.
the worst part of the damn thing is there's this one game where the little car is going forward, and if you push one of the buttons, the car resets. So when my 3-year-old was a little bit younger, he tried to play it, and he'd get pissed off because he'd be smashing the buttons and couldn't go forward because the car kept resetting back to the beginning.
Oh,
It's like,
man.
dude, don't push the button. Like, why would you make something for little kids where if they push the button, it actually resets their progress? Just make the shit keep going forward. They'll love it. Just be a fucking noise. Make it hurt the horn or something. But resetting the damn car sounds like the worst thing you could do. They're gonna get frustrated.
Yeah, we need like Joel on here because Jojo, I'm sure he plays that a lot, right? So, yeah, Joel, the other guy that's on here normally, his son is Jojo, and he has one of those sort of modded
He has
Paw Patrols.
Paw Patrols.
What did
okay.
he put on there? Do you know? Do you know, Matt, what he put on there? I don't remember. He had
No,
a
I
list of games.
There
did.
wasn't a lot of work put into that either. Like the emulation performance wasn't quite there. I probably could have improved it, but
Yeah.
like I could have gotten Batacera running on the Paw Patrol if I wanted to, but I just got it to a bare minimum point because people thought I wasn't being serious when B asked me. It was either B or P Dubs. One of them goes, "What's the next cabinet you're gonna do?" And I go, "Paw Patrol." And he's like, "He's fucking joking," and I'm like, "Nope, here you go. Here's Paw Patrol." I wasn't joking. And that was only like the second mod we ever released outside of pinball, right? Like,
Yes, sir.
it's crazy
Yeah.
because we work on so much crap, but we release like almost none of it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of it is 99% of us have really bad ADHD. So when a new cabinet comes out, ooh, shiny.
Yeah, shiny. Yes,
I think
they
it's
all
kind of what
struggle.
happened with iArcade too. It was like bankruptcy. Ooh, shiny.
Yeah.
I mean, we moved fucking fast on this. I don't know if you guys realize how quickly from the point that they announced that to the point that we started producing hardware.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's
was
like a
pretty
matter
quick.
of weeks.
That board was not already designed. That was designed like a week after they announced the bankruptcy.
Yeah, it's maddening how fast y'all were able to just come up with that, write code for it, and be able to for it to do what it's able to do that quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, people already have them in their hands, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because other companies are like, we're gonna have this board and it'll be here Christmas next year, right? And you're like, here, like
Yeah,
it's
here it
crazy.
is right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's you got to move before you lose interest. That's part of it. Because if we lose interest, like for instance, the pinball stuff, I see. I don't know his name. Nerd Lounge has a 1-up pinball there.
Yeah.
Do you happen to be running Pinner on it?
No.
Oh,
No,
you
it's stuck.
bastard!
It's
I have it on mine.
Yeah, I'm not coming on here anymore if Nerd Lounge is here. That's messed up.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
No.
Blasphemy.
What I was gonna say though is, I got all the way to 3.9 on that, and I promise there's a lot of other stuff that can be done, like getting plungers and solenoid working in Pinball Arcade, for instance, or getting the camera set up properly. All of those things are not super difficult to do. It's just a matter of like dedicating the time to it, and I am really bad at time management, so I've kind of been sitting on updates for it. Like, there's a QR code system that I created. I don't know if you're running that, Chaotic.
I'm running 3.9. I didn't do the latest one that you've done.
Yeah, so there was a beta that got released where when a table ends in Zen, it actually pops a QR code that you can scan and submit your high scores on a leaderboard that we host.
Oh wow.
That would be dope for the Discord too.
Yeah, it automatically advertises the Discord when people post their scores to our Discord. So if you ever looked inside of our Discord and you saw there's a channel, I don't know what it is.
A1 pinup.
Yeah, it's actually Pinner Leaderboards is in there, and it'll tell you like new high score submitted, and it tells you somebody's name and everything. But the idea was the fun part about the pinball was the technical challenge of figuring out how to do things without having like Wi-Fi or without having their display. So it's like, how do you do a backglass that changes images? Because you don't have an extra HDMI output. You have one HDMI output and one LVDS for the main screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then it was like, okay, well, I think I can go tell a Pi Zero to go change this, and then tell the PCB to talk to the Pi Zero through the USB, and pulled that off. And that was one of the things that was in that beta. Was there's a lot of people out there, you've probably seen them, where their screen on the back actually changes with it. And so the technical challenges are fun to work around, right? And then it's like, I want leaderboards. How do I pull this off to where I can do it with no Wi-Fi? And so it's like, well, I'm going to make a QR code that pops up after the game's over.
Huh.
And a lot of people would tell you that's impossible because I don't have the source code to Zen Pinball. So how do you do that? How do you read the score from the game? How do you generate this QR code based on that? How do you make it display over it?
Right.
Yeah.
So how?
That's the magic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Don't look behind the curtain. Yeah.
Well, no, that's a lot of it, though, is that people will tell me that this stuff's not possible. And I'm one person that's been very adamant about, no, if somebody wants to put enough time and effort, it's possible. And that's kind of my argument with Retro Lizard Joel, is that often he will say that and then try to challenge me to do it. But if I don't have the passion or interest, I'm not doing anything. So I'll tell you it's possible. I believe it's possible. You can agree to disagree, but that's what it is. I'll tell you, I think it's possible, period.
Yes.
Like, for instance, have you guys seen that there's a website called decomp.me, right? And this website, well, you've probably never heard of it, but I'm saying that this website exists. And so have you seen that Mario 64 and Zelda have been decompiled down to source code and recompiled for other architectures?
I've seen like some up for like when they made Ocarina of Time through Unreal Engine and stuff like that.
No, not like that. Like Ship of Hurricane, I think they call it.
Okay.
So basically, it's except for Miss Pac-Man. Oh God. No, basically decomp.me, it's really interesting. There's people are crazy. People think I'm crazy, but I think there's people out there that are even crazier than I am when it comes to some of this stuff. The idea is that decomp.me, the website, is almost like a group effort to decompile video games, but it's not just decompiling the video game. They put extra effort into making sure that these video games, that their code specifically is 1-to-1. And what that means is the code that they generate, when they compile it, it creates a matching, like, exact code to the original.
That's crazy. So,
and
like,
so they're getting this,
So it would be like a hash mask, like match. Like
they have matching hashes on them. That's why it's 1-to-1.
Ridiculous.
There was a guy that did it. Yeah, you know how insane that is to even think about. And there's a guy that did it for, I think it wasn't Duke Nukem, was it? It might have been Duke Nukem. Duke Nukem 2, maybe? One of them. But he did that on x86 architecture, which is even harder to do. But my point there, and the fact that stuff exists, is that if you're able to do that for something like a PlayStation 2 game, which is something that decomp.me supports, if there was a group effort to try to decompile that down to source code, then theoretically you could remove the GPU layer that talked to the original PlayStation 2 and run it on this processor, and it would run at full speed. And that's exactly what happened with Blitz and Big Buck and Fast and the Furious. The difference is they didn't have to decompile it because they were given the source code. Blitz shouldn't be running on that cabinet behind you. That cabinet is a Raspberry Pi 3 for all intents and purposes. Like, it's the exact same. It's the exact same as a Raspberry Pi 3 in terms of performance, right? So because they had source code, it was possible to run it. If they were trying to emulate it, hell no. And that's where I'm saying, like, with enough time and money, if they wanted to run Time Crisis 2, people talk about how weak their hardware is and always blame their hardware for being weak as the reason why they're not doing X, Y, and Z. And it's like, no, if there was demand and money, they'd probably do it because they can. Like, if you think about it, that old arcade machine didn't need that much processing power. So if the game's running natively, it's not that impressive. It's emulation that is the overhead.
Mm-hmm.
I know I went into another deep technical thing.
No,
this is going to be an hour of me fucking ranting on your guys' show. So thanks for inviting me.
We're
so I can just rant on YouTube for a fucking hour.
And we're grateful for that hour. Yeah.
Incredible. I just hate that I wasn't able to ask more technical questions and stuff like that. It's just like what you are capable of amazes me. And
I'm not capable of anything. I'm not even a programmer, dude. I'm a cybersecurity professional. I just do this shit for fun, and then I get curious, obsessed, and start throwing code at the wall and see what sticks and hope it works.
Yes, sir.
that's the amazing part to me. Like honestly,
Right.
it's just
Yeah. I don't know. It's I didn't go to school for this stuff either. It's funny. I wrote programs for PhD students, but I don't have a degree.
Do you have your
it's-
CISSP?
Yeah. If you want an impressive story, my CISSP I studied for a week and passed in 45 minutes at
That's
110%.
ridiculous, bro. Like I know people like who for like they failed that test multiple times.
Yeah, it was 45 minutes and I didn't, it was the adaptive test, so I only got to the 100 questions instead of the
Yes, sir.
120 or whatever. So that means I passed with like 110% or whatever.
It just they're like, oh, you passed. Stop testing.
I did the OSCP in I think 30 minutes or something like that.
Wow.
golly.
That's fantastic. It just means you're wired like that. You were put on this.
I look at things in a different way. I try to oversimplify things and I break them down. Like, for instance, for a long time, growing up, did you guys ever play Grand Theft Auto 3 on computer or San
No.
Andreas?
No.
So there were guys that figured out how to modify MG, screw you. There's guys that figured out how to. Well, I'm saying that because first off, the T2 soft mod isn't my thing. It's another guy in our team. That guy lost his job. He was working on it. So
Yeah.
he kind of ceased to work on it. And he even said that in our Discord. And the second part of that is it's running a extremely old graphics driver with a really shitty old kernel because Arcade 1-Up's fucking hardware or OS team or whoever the hell they are sucks at doing anything involving the kernel or Linux whatsoever, which is why every Arcade 1-Up at this point is going to be fucking Android moving forward. And that also pisses me off. Anyway.
MG, you made our guest mad, bro. That's not cool.
All right, MG. We love you, brother.
But regardless, the GTA thing, one of the things that inspired me was that people, when it came to PC, they made multiplayer mods for it where you could play online before any official multiplayer worked. And with that was really impressive to me. That seemed like an almost impossible feat. How do you take a single player game you don't have code for and turn it into a multiplayer game online?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But then you get into like how to do cheats in video games and like how game engines are designed, and you learn all of these individual concepts, and it actually becomes a lot easier when you break it all down. And that's what a lot of this is in the terms of like how I'm wired. I tend to do that a lot is try to look at the overall thing and then break out the puzzle pieces and then learn each piece individually.
Wow.
So with a game like that, for instance, all games are written sort of the same way. When somebody makes a cheat, right, maybe an infinite health cheat, they have to figure out what the health of the player is and how the memory relates to that and so on, so they can manipulate the health of the player, stop it from being manipulated, right?
Right.
So why does he say no boo tonight?
Because typically he like says when we are wrapping up the show, he's like, "Boo! Y'all want to go 24 hours."
He wants
It's
like 24 hours. Yeah, he's saying spirits is.
God.
We love you, Saiyan Spirits. You rock, dude. Have fun
But,
over at Steps. Hope y'all win something.
Where I was going with the health concept, though, is that when you look at memory, like a player is stored in the same place in memory. It's all kind of next to each other.
Yeah.
So reverse engineering video games becomes as simple as understanding that concept. And then once you find somebody's health, you can get like their position. And then once you have their position, you send the position over the network. And then guess what? You're kind of playing multiplayer.
Huh.
So it's like concepts sound hard, right? Like the concept of this game is single player. I want it to be multiplayer. That sounds hard. But then when you break down the puzzle pieces and kind of try to put it together that way, it's like, okay, maybe this isn't that hard. So I've actually achieved that in a video game before,
Cool.
as a proof of concept. And it's just like looking at those things that seem impossible and defining them as tasks for yourself is kind of what got me into Arcade 1-Up as well and soft modding.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Because it's like there's this embedded board. I want to learn about this hardware. It's supposed to be, it's supposed to be secure in some way. Let's find out how secure.
See, was it Carlos comment? The whole NA, right? So, it's like, have you seen Hackers? It's an old movie, the one with Angelina Jolie, right?
Yeah.
I think it's real cool. Yeah.
How would I be doing
Like
this?
it's a cult classic, right? So yeah,
Mhm.
you got it. So yeah.
I think it's one of the first times you ever see Angelina Jolie's tits in movie history.
Maybe so.
I don't know, but yeah.
I just
Yeah, I've seen that movie. We've seen that movie probably, I don't know, 100 times. My wife and I, we love that movie. So yeah,
it was a great movie. Despite being cheesy, it was a great movie.
it was cheesy. Yeah. Have you guys seen it? Brian, Todd, have you seen?
No,
Hackers?
no.
It's
Really?
it's probably been like 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm a movie buff, so I'll probably
Yeah,
be
homework.
checking it out.
Yes.
Speaking
Yep,
of
I will do it for
multiplayer,
next.
the online does work. I heard you guys question that.
Yeah. For Shredder's Revenge.
No, in general, like the
In general?
emulation of their servers for online play,
Yeah.
the online play they had before.
Yeah.
So the deal
So
there
it's-
was they used an open source framework called Nakama,
Uh-huh.
which apparently is Japanese for friends. And so getting that to work was as simple as pointing the client, the arcade, at a different server and standing up the open source like setup, the code for it. So I put it online, I pointed it there. There's obviously a little bit more than that. I'm fluffing and not saying everything in relation, but yeah, so you just point there, and then me and Rascal went online and tried it, and it worked when we tried it. And then the next day we go on a stream and it doesn't work, and
Yeah, watch that
that's how
stream.
shit goes.
Yeah. But like you and Rascal didn't get that much sleep that given night. I said,
So what happened was I got the multiplayer working. We started testing it, and we're having a conversation, and I mentioned something about light guns or RevX or something like that. And he's like, I could probably get that working. And he goes, can you? And I go, yeah, I think so.
uh-huh.
And so it was just this progression of like, oh, look, it works. Oh, look, the joystick moves the thing around. Oh, wait, it's not getting past this point, or it's not getting past this point. And just like, yeah. And then he went to bed at 4 a.m. his time. And then I ended up staying up till 4 a.m. my time, still working on it.
Ah. Wow.
No. Yeah, I stay up too much, based on being on call when I work, and so yeah, I don't do it on.
I can't do on call, man. I fucking ugh.
Oh, it's a train wreck. It never gets old. Like past 15 years, it never gets any better. So yeah.
So I worked for an extremely small MSP at one point, and I told people often that I got paid like $135 an hour to go plug a fucking printer in some days, and other days it was like reconfiguring a whole server. And it's being on call for that crap was the weirdest thing, because you'd have a law office call you and be like, our printer's not working. And you show up and somebody tripped over the power cord, and they're like, wait, we have to pay you for that? And I'm like, yeah, dude, minimum an hour.
Yeah, you
Sorry.
do. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Layer 1, bro. Layer 1. Exactly.
Like, why didn't you check if it was unplugged?
Oh man.
And it's this urgent thing because they have a court case in the morning and they've been working all night and blah, blah. And it's like, okay, your problem is not my problem.
Yep.
You need me. This is the rate. Yeah,
About 7 or 8 years ago, I worked for a medium-sized MSP, and so most of our customers were convenience stores, like large chains, like, well, I don't want to say them, but anyway. So
I've worked in that kind of environment before. That wasn't fun. I worked for the headquarters of a restaurant dealing with their point-of-sale machines.
yes, sir. Yeah, that's what we did. We encrypted the swipe, so we would build a tunnel from the convenience store to the data centers, redundant, right, based on diversity and
For that exact reason, at a lot of those places, I refuse to swipe my card anymore.
Yeah, there's a handful of
Just
mainly
knowing
restaurants.
how bad that crap is.
Yep. Brothers from a different mother. I love it. Yeah. Anyway, we got off on a tangent. Sorry.
No, I don't. I mean, it's whatever you guys want to cover. I just started ranting because nobody was saying anything. So I'm like, if you give me the opportunity to, that's what's going to happen.
Yes, sir.
That's the whole point of the show. This was a chill show. This is,
Yeah,
this
just
is
hang
what it
out,
is.
man.
Yeah, just a
It
hang
is
out
fun.
show.
Well, that makes sense. I think.
I think in theory, yeah, that's fine. It is close to like
How many it's ironic that Matt has a bad network. It is actually. I agree. But so do I.
hey,
You know,
MG.
The
Actually,
problem
yeah,
the problem when you do this stuff, and this, whether it be arcade, network, computer, whatever else, is when you do this stuff as a hobby or as a job, your own network and your own fucking bullshit suffers. It never gets finished. It never gets done, and you don't want to deal with it.
no, I would. No, I have a little 19-inch rack in my closet. It's dressed in. I like it, so I'm proud of it. I use like shorty jumpers to my Switch, and then to all of the hardware, to my room. So yeah, I'm, aesthetically, I love it, and so I could probably get right now, because we have 1 gig to the house, right? But then like they're starting off at 2.5 to the house. I will never use it, but it's a good flex.
No, I wish I had fiber. I have a UDM Pro, so I have the SFP for it, but I don't have fiber.
Yes, sir.
But no, what I was talking about more so is like every arcade one up I have, that wooden back paneling that you're supposed to put on there with the 3 screws. Yeah, none of mine have that. Not one. There's probably like on any given day there'll probably be a laptop sitting out of one with a cord connected for like 3 months with nothing happening. And my kids are like, "Can I play on that?" I'm like, "I don't know if it'll turn on." Or they turn one on and it does something weird or nothing at all. I don't know. And they're just like,
Yeah.
It sucks because they don't get to play on that crap because it's always in like a half working state. Like my arcade went up pinball. I decided to go with a PC conversion on mine because I got just frustrated. I've got 2, so I'm still gonna keep doing pinner. But right now, Jeff and I are actually working on designing like a drop-in. I don't want to call it an encoder because it's not just an encoder, but a drop-in board for the pinball, so that a PC can drive like the solenoids and all of that stuff without having to add new stuff to it. So you'd unplug all of the stock stuff, the plunger, the accelerometer, the solenoids, plug it all into this board, plug the USB cable into a computer, and then DOF links and everything would recognize it just like all the other crap.
Huh.
I'd rather have that anyway. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it does.
Well, you get to a point where you're like, you know what? I want to play this table or I want to do this thing. And it's just not going to be, and I know I'm being contradictory and hypocritical here. It's just not going to be possible on that hardware because I don't have the source code to a lot of these emulators. And VPX, nothing against the people that make tables for VPX, but my God, are those fucking textures and those models like way higher res than they should be when they put them in there, and people wonder why it takes such like large hardware to run VPX when it really shouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So like for instance, Pinball Arcade, the reason why they're able to run some of those more modern tables is they're not doing, I mean, you guys are familiar with real-time lighting, right? Like we're all familiar with RTX and all that crap. So VPX technically does real-time lighting systems, which is why it's so demanding. What Pinball Arcade did in order to avoid that, because if you remember, the same guys that were developing that were doing the Williams collection back on the PlayStation 2. Like they've been doing this for a while on lesser hardware. They used other techniques. So what they did was they took pictures of the entire playfield with the lights on and the lights off, and then photoshopped out the area where the lights were, and they just swapped the texture from off to on.
So like real photo textures and stuff.
Like they scanned the playfield. They took everything off the playfield, scanned it with none of the lights on, scanned it with all of the lights on, and then just swapped the textures back and forth.
Jesus.
Yeah, but so I mean, at that point though, that's the most optimized you can get, right? They're just rendering a texture. You can't tell the difference. It's turned on, the lights on. What's the difference? But that's how you get performance, is you do stuff like that, and then you can get it running on whatever you want, because you're not doing like 1,000 lights on a freaking board where you're demanding so much power. And sure, it may not look as great, but
It plays on. Right?
If it plays and it's fun, I don't care.
Playable.
And that's the caveat to me saying that that's the caveat to me saying that like anything's possible with money and blah blah is like Mutant Football League is a good example of this. They said Mutant Football League couldn't run on the hardware, and we've heard various answers as to why. Some people said that it was something related to Google, which if it required Google Play services, maybe, but why couldn't they just remove it? Like that shouldn't be a requirement. The game doesn't anyway. But let's say the limitation was hardware. Technically they can get it running still, but maybe they have to reduce poly counts. Maybe they have to reduce texture quality. Like, I mean, we all know this, right? When a game's on PC and they want it running on an Xbox, is it running at 60 FPS or 120 FPS on the Xbox and with the highest textures and all that garbage? No. Which is the same concept, right? Like, it's still Mutant Football League, but is it still the desired Mutant Football League to get it running there? Is it going to look like you're playing it on an NES?
Right.
Or PlayStation 1?
Is another good example would be like when they ported The Witcher 3 from PlayStation and Xbox over to the Switch. How the graphics are all blurry, how it runs slow. It's the same as that game, but you lose all those 4K textures to 920, 960.
Well, and the other thing there is how much money does it cost for the developers to do all of that? If that was the reason why it wouldn't run on the arcade or the iArcade, like,
yeah,
maybe it could have looked reasonable enough that it was playable and it was still acceptable and could be sold, but how much money would it take to get there too? Is it actually worth it?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'll say there's limits to that concept that I was saying about it's not a problem with the hardware, because it could also be a problem with the hardware if it's too modern and sacrifices need to be made to get it running. I mean, the Fast and the Furious, right? Apparently people said there was a definite degradation in graphics compared to the arcade version that runs on the Arcade 1-Up.
Yes, sir.
So that's an example of them doing that.
Yeah, it went from 60 to 30, and then they had to cut one game in half or something like that.
Yeah. That thing's funny though. You know what the code for that is? Actually the Cruisin' Wii game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No, like we've looked at it. It is the code for the Cruisin' Wii game. There's a flag in the code to turn it into Cruisin'. That's what I mean. Like, it is the Cruisin' game from the Wii.
It's crazy.
So,
oh my god!
Like, I'm not speculating. I'm telling you, it is
100%.
Like
100%.
Yeah. What intrigues me about that stuff is when I was talking about that whole decompilation thing. Let's say in the future that Arcade 1-Up goes under for whatever reason, right? Those games all have debug symbols in them, which makes it a hell of a lot easier to decompile them in terms of like getting source code from them. So in theory, if Arcade 1-Up were ever to go bankrupt or go out of business or something, there's nothing to say that people wouldn't somehow, decompile the Blitz source code out of the binary that leaks online randomly.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Which, if that was to happen, then you'd get like modern recreations of it. Fans are crazy with that stuff. You'd probably see people trying to enable real-time fucking lighting and shit. Like, RTX on! Don't get late hits, but guess what? That guy's ass has light pointed at it now.
Oh, man.
Unreal Engine 5 graphics.
Yeah, that even the way they disabled late hits on there is like it's interesting because I don't think they actually removed it. I think it's just a code change.
Yeah.
Really?
Like a toggle. Because we saw stuff in there about like swear words and stuff too. I don't know if the original arcade game had swearing and this one doesn't.
Something like that. I've heard that too.
Yeah, I know that one doesn't have swear words in it.
Yeah, I know they took it out of
that's just
Blitz 2000.
We can turn that all back on. We just haven't bothered.
That would be. Yes.
I want to swap the sound file so it says bad shit about John D while it does it. I love that guy, dude. He's fun to fuck with. John D's awesome.
Yeah, he's passionate about his giving, pushing the
yeah.
market.
Well, don't get me wrong, he's an egotistic asshole, but I still love the guy.
Uh-huh. It's like I always say this: both can be true, right? He's a nice guy, and yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have that problem with a lot of YouTubers, right? Like I met P-Dubs recently in person,
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
and P-Dubs it's not just YouTube. He's a strictly business person. That's what he's about.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it's like I don't know, you don't always know if somebody's personality is their YouTube personality or if that's really who they are. Or like me, you get what you get, dude. I'm a very unfiltered, uncensored person. Even around my kids, people kind of trip out because I'll cuss in front of my kids and stuff.
Yeah.
Or like my wife and I both get anxious because we cuss in front of their teachers and crap at their school, and we just can't help it because that's us. We don't filter ourselves.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I don't know.
I would say.
People,
Go
huh?
ahead. I would say most of the people under mainly this given like what you see on the screen is us. Like we're dorks. Like we have nothing to hide, right? It's like
Yeah. No.
I mean, I think the reality is I have nothing to hide. It's just more fun to do it than give a shit or put a personality on anything. It's like on Zod's show, I made comment about I can be like an egotistic narcissist, and I've had that problem in the past when I was like running communities and stuff. And so my original idea coming into all of this was to not even be a part of it. When that Pinner mod released, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like how the origins of that started with the whole fuck you list and all of that crap.
yeah,
No?
actually, because when it first released, people always thought it was like an inside job. Like they thought like whoever did this worked for Arcade 1UP, right?
Yeah. No. I
No.
just no. Yeah. They couldn't afford me. Like based on my day job, it would cost them too much money for sure. But
Well, maybe you could say that, but then if you could lock their stuff down where it couldn't be hacked, people would have to buy more stuff.
well, no, they want it to be hacked. Let's be real. That sells cabinets. Whether or not, okay, so it's not in their licenser's best interest, so they'll do the minimal effort that they're required to do in order to secure things. People have speculated that it's intentional, but that can't be because otherwise people wouldn't license them games, which
Right.
is obviously the reason why Arcade can't tell you that their shit stinks, because they had licenses with Sega, right? They had licenses with big people, and those people probably had requirements and contracts around those licenses. And Arcade 1UP has a lot of the same stuff, but it's of no benefit of them to secure that for sure. I mean, I am 110% positive that the sales of fucking Paw Patrol skyrocketed when a soft mod came out for it, just because people wanted to soft mod something.
No doubt.
Which is true. Yes.
No doubt. If we could look at sell sheets, I guarantee that data would prove that.
Well, and I've heard rumors that Zen were initially mad about the pinball being modded, which in that case would be their licensor, the person they have a contract with, where they're supposed to secure it. And that's why if you look at all of the cabinets actually that are Android within Arcade 1UP, a lot of them you can just plug a keyboard in, right? And you can start screwing around with it. Pinball is the exception to that. The pinball and the infinity table. So if you question why, it's the licensors that they're working with, right? The infinity table has some really big Hasbro titles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The Arcade 1UP pinball had the Zen stuff, and Zen's very protective of their IP. We've seen YouTubers get shut down for showing their IP in the wrong light or a cracked version or whatever.
Yeah.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, I've heard that they weren't too happy about it, and that they kind of warmed up to the idea, which could be because they started generating cells through a fucking Android app.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, this isn't cool. Now we're not getting the same royalties you were because you're selling less pinball. Well, wait, now people are buying $100 worth of tables from us on this, and who knows what their royalties were on those pinball tables in the first place. But
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I spent $30 on that app to do the A1 pinner.
yeah, and that was cool that it was able to make that possible, right? Like it sucks that you have to go through the hoops of using BlueStack and stuff, and I understand that. But I was really adamant about not going and just distributing and pirating all of that, because like it's possible to buy them, so just do it. It's not that expensive.
I supported a developer. I'm happy. I don't care.
Yeah. And Zen made great tables. Like, don't get me wrong, their shit was really good. I'm disappointed in FX though. I don't like it. But
Yeah. I mean, the Universal tables were my favorite ones to play with. The Jaws and Back to the Future, and
Yeah, I'm trying to think which one I really liked. It's funny, my wife and I had a really good time with the pinball when we first got it, when it was just Marvel.
Yeah.
Her and I would sit there and get drunk and compete for high scores until she
Yeah.
got mad because mine were too high for her to get. That's when she said "fuck you" and stopped playing.
it's the other way around.
It sucks because when I do this stuff, I burn myself out on that cabinet or that system. So like I don't even enjoy the pinball as much as I did when I first bought the thing anymore because I modded it, because I've spent so much time doing this stuff and got so frustrated with it. Like it really sucks too because you work on this stuff and then I started having problems with frame rate, like because I was doing the DMD and Zen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I see it and it bothers the hell out of me. So I stopped playing it.
Yeah.
And so then it's this concept of I need to either fix this, which is going to burn me out, or I'm just not going to play it because I'm going to look at it and I'm going to get disappointed and know that that's my failure I'm staring at.
Yeah, that's the whole notion. When you actually create something or build it from your own hands, like you see every single flaw that's on it. Most people don't, but you do.
I'm really bad with frame rates and shit like that, dude. I like even Area 51. Most people will say that's running perfectly fine, but I can see like even if it drops by like, let's say it's running at 30 frames and it drops to 29, 28. I notice that shit. It bothers the hell out of me. That's like on TV. I'm very susceptible to light bleed. I fucking hate light bleed. Light bleed. I don't know if you guys know what light bleed is on a TV.
It's around the edges, right?
Uh-huh.
The
It like,
plastic.
makes a ring around shit.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
halo effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that. I can see that right away. I'm
Oh,
very
man.
sensitive to it. That's also why I hate PC gaming, because I start getting mad at my computer whenever I'm getting frame drops if I see it. I fucking hate it, dude. But then I don't like an Xbox because I notice it there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's kind of why retro games work for me, though. I never played the original. I don't know there's a difference here, all right?
Yeah.
Right. You have to compare it to.
There you
There's
go.
no goddamn frame drops in vector graphics or like
Right.
in
No.
Pac-Man
No.
or whatever.
No.
But on the iArcade, I'm getting mystery. Hell, I don't understand, but okay. So, do you have the buy stuff mod in your Ridge Racer back there, Todd?
No, I do not.
Do you not mod any of your stuff? Because I'll leave right now.
No, I do.
You-
Here, I have to buy stuff. There's my cab is less than like it's there. I even turn
Oh, I
into a
like
sit down
that.
cab.
Yeah, I like the sit down conversion.
Yeah. So and then it has a buy stuff store mod.
Look at that.
And
Matt's
I'm
trying to
wondering-
save. Matt's trying to save this right now. He's like,
I,
don't
yeah,
answer,
I-
Todd.
I
Don't
would
do it. I'll
consider
show
it.
him my modded stuff.
Exactly. So there's that, and then that used to be the NBA Jam cab. There's a Wii inside of the soft modded. So yeah, I'm a dork. So I love it.
You got to give me a little bit of credit. I've been moving and I just haven't had time. You got give me just a little
That's
credit,
true.
okay?
How
Yeah.
long has the pinball mod been out for? I can't give you any credit for that
You-
one.
Come on, give me some credit here. Come on.
No.
Come on, mystery cover. Come on.
The reason
Right.
why I asked about the Ridge Racer is that one's actually fascinating in terms of the stock hardware. It's I'd say it's decently powerful to the point where if I ever get off my ass and write like a driver for the input, it'll probably run just as much as that buy stuff box does, which is kind of disappointing for the people that bought it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you would save me a crap load of money.
Yeah, it sucks, but it's yeah. And that's my other problem. It's funny because he's saying that he put a PC in there, right? And I have like a crap ton of PCs and stuff laying around, and I know that stuff, and it's like I get disappointed sometimes because I look at Star Wars and we're soft modding Star Wars right now. There's another guy working on that. Dude, we have so many
Wow.
projects lined up, and but the problem is I'm not going to be able to run Star Wars Trilogy on it. You know, it's not like
Yeah.
it's just not going to be in the cards.
Yeah.
And so it just leaves you disappointed. And that's sort of what happened with pinball was it was like, this is really cool. It's a cool project, but now I'm getting these fucking frame rate drops and this isn't working right. And I'm just disappointed in it. But then I started setting up BPX, and that's when I may have had to buy a new 32-inch screen because I might have punched it.
Oh,
But pin-up popper is fucking frustrating.
Yeah.
Mm.
That shit is not fun to deal with, man. Like, I think the best thing about the pinner mod is you turned it on and you clicked the start button and you played.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
And I was using existing applications already. I was using Zen. I was using PBA. So the table's already there. The configs are already there. The input, all of that crap. I don't like having to configure this crap. It sucks. And then you never know when it's going to go wrong either. Like, what happens when that hard drive in that system dies or something? I got to redo all this garbage.
Yeah.
So it's not fun. It sucks.
Yeah.
So it's like, I understand the people that buy shit as much as I hate the people that sell it. Because I'm in that boat, dude. I'd rather buy that crap instead of sit here and configure it. It's just too much work, and you don't have enough time as you get older and get a job and family and all that crap.
Yeah, time is money.
Yep.
Well,
But that's
I'm concerned because they're talking about tops and tails in the chat. So, do you think we should? Do you think we should end this one?
What's a top and a tail?
I'm concerned.
I don't know.
I don't know. Our chat got weird.
Our chat got weird. Yeah. Well, guys,
All right.
y'all want to call it? We've been talking for an hour and a half.
Well, the main thing is we got to respect steps. So we got Bobby Boo, and her stream starts at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's already started. They're on their second
Yeah.
giveaway.
Yeah.
There you
Well, let's call it a night, gentlemen. Mr. and Carter, thank you for coming on, buddy. We really appreciate you talking to
Yes,
us
sir.
and filling the show full of awesome stuff. So,
No
and
problem.
I promise I'll
I'm-
get on to modding stuff. Okay, I'll get on to.
I'll get on to them. I'll chase them around.
This was
He's my
definitely a
support.
little. I'm not used to this, where nobody sort of hosts, so it's definitely harder. But it was cool.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Works for
No
us.
problem.
Just hanging out with us meant a lot. So we appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
No
Chat,
problem.
we
Thanks for having me
appreciate
on.
you guys. Y'all have a wonderful evening. We will see y'all next week. And as always, have fun playing games and never stop. And what do you say? Always say, Matt? What's your slogan?
life-
dude?
Yeah,
Anything
live
possible.
sports. I only have one game. That's it.
There you go, brother. Y'all have a great week. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you, guys.